Oh, just as last time, I'm bored as fuck. I guess I got nothing to do, so check that notebook again. Huh, there's some new stuff here. I just gonna talk about this one. Hello. You're new. Why are you here? Fish! Oh, piss off! Hey, just a heads up, there's gonna be some dark subject matter and some flashing lights. If you're very sensitive to those topics, I highly recommend cutting away. Oh, watch something else if you're Shirley. At least it's doing something you want to. Hello, everyone. Us here. Analog horror is one of those things where no matter how complex some of the characters are, the story is mostly straightforward. I mean, hell, you could probably summarize your favorite analog career under a few sentences. Like Mandela Catalog. What if the phrase, "that's not my neighbor," has some sort of religious undertone? The Molyneux mythos. What if the cheese theory is true? Lastly, the painter. What if two freaks decide to commit murders? However, there are very few analog horror that make me so confused that not even watching it makes less sense, but also brings more questions than answers. And that analog horror is Duffy Digital Circus. Now, a lot of you may be wondering how I even stumbled across this analog horror. I mean, you see a bunch of people react to it, but not talking about it. Well, how you even stumbled across? Well, you see, that's a funny story. You see, it's Papa's fault. Yep, Mr. Terror Videos for Terror People decided to make a video on this digital horror, and man, what a video this is. Half of the video is just him venting about how arguing the internet nowadays has just become, well, accessible, which is true, Twitter is that. But half of this rant is just him painting as a victim because he didn't like Half-Life 2. I wish I was joking. Alright, so that's basically half the video. Surely his other half of him just have some good criticism of the show, right? Porn. Yep, one of his bigger critique is that this version of Pommy have so much porn, which is another thing to complain about, but hey, at least this is the only time you can complain about it, right? Are you fucking kidding me? So yeah, I made this video out of pure spite, truly. So enough wait, let's go into it.
Hey there! If you want to find my sunken treasure chest, you'll have to try better than that.
So the first video is called The Amateur Digital Circus Anti-Pirate Screen, and yeah, it's just basically your typical anti-pirate screen video. Honestly, I got nothing else to say other than this is your typical anti-piracy screen. Basically just to demand you to stop playing the game or else they will delete your data. Pretty much nothing else. I guess we just move on to the second video, I guess. So the second video is called Hello Kane.
Hello, Gordon.
So yeah, just like last video, nothing special. It's just Kane doing some dumb shit while launching a ball out of nowhere. And again, nothing special other than let's go to the next video. So the next video is Kane on a boat, and it's just Kane on a boat. Yeah, if you haven't guessed by now, these few episodes isn't very story heavy. In fact, you could just skip these episodes and get nothing out of it. So yeah, pretty much these aren't very story heavy. So the next video is Kane stargazing, and just like the few episodes, it's not very story heavy. However, the next video, things are starting to move on story wise, so yeah. So the next video is called I Know You're There, and we get introduced to this version of Jangle. Yeah, just switch one way around. So Jangle is basically hiding from, presumably Jack from Hide Seek, and she also explains that the others always picks on her for one reason or another. So after that conversation, she decided to turn the TV on us and explain who we are. Oh, well, I'm Oz. I'm a music major. I really like Dead Cells, burritos, picnic, and she cannot hear me. So yeah, that's I'm fine. That's fucking my interest. So after that, she apologized to us and realized that someone already found her, and presumably this is Jack and the episode. Yeah. So the next video is an introduction to this version of Pommy, or rather, the Jester, and that's pretty much this. So yeah, on to the next episode where we get introduced to the Jester. Did I put in the wrong video? No, this is the right video. So what's going on? No, I will not elaborate, and yes, we'll move on. So the next video is Digital Lake, and yep, it is a digital lake. It's still a digital lake. Honestly, there's nothing else to talk about other than we see glimpses of Jax and Pomni and this very odd Bible verse, but other than that, I got nothing else to say. But then, yet again, let's move on to the next episode. So the next episode is called The Old Gods and Kane is Fucking Dead. Honestly, I got nothing to say other than we could introduce some of the other characters. So we already know about the two known characters, Jester and Django, which is Pomni and Gango, respectively. However, they're introduced with the other characters. First, we get introduced to this version of Jack, this version of Ragatha, Annie, this version of Kinger, Crowner, and lastly, this version of Zubul. What the fuck happened to Zubul? Or rather, this version of Zubul Noble, as in the code Noble, which spells differently for some reason. I don't know. So yeah, other than that, we got no story information. So pretty much, yet again, let's go to the next episode. So the next episode, the Psychos, start as basically a recap of what happened in this version of the Amazing Digital Circus, and yeah, it's just basically a one-to-one version of the Amazing Digital Circus, with one small detail. Honestly, I kind of like the idea of Pomni becoming a antagonist, but however, if I had to complain about one thing, this whole thing felt very confusing in a way. After reviewing my notes and basically writing the script, I'm still confused on what's going on. Like, how did Kane die? Who killed Kane? And why Pomni become the new head of the circus? So many questions, yet so little answers. It's kind of, confusing. And don't get me wrong, I love a confusing story. I mean, hell, my favorite game is Killer 7. That game had a cult leader that masqueraded so much is countless terrorist script.
No, sir, they won't be tricked by illusions anymore. Oh my God, I can't hold back. Oh, God, I'm coming. Yeah! See, I told you, this is real.
However, unlike Killer 7, where it gave you the question and then the answer in that specific chapter, and here we're in 10th episode in, and yet we still have more question than answer, which is, yet again, confusing. And that doesn't help with the next episode. Although it answers some questions, it does leave more questions than answers, which is, yet again, more confusing. So the next episode, the conversation start with we gotta guess, a conversation. So in this episode, both Gango and Noble are talking about Kane's death, and basically how everything felt weird after that. And it got to the point where they able to, say damn, and presumably curse. At least they got one thing correct. And after that conversation, they both talk about the after event during Kane's death. And I think they're talking about how Jack pretended everything is normal, at a point where Noble apologized for it, and for some reason, Django got upset about it. I don't know. So after that conversation, Noble go to her room, and yeah, just like my horror video, I'm not gonna show this. A, because I'm not risking my channel for, deletion, and 2, because I'm not very comfortable showing this scene. However, if I had to complain about one thing, is that why did Noble decide to off themselves? It's been pre-established that no matter what they do, Pomni is still out there and try to revive it in the most painful way possible. So why did Noble do this? Shock value? The author forgot? I don't know. So in the next episode, the truth began where both Jack and Django start an argument, and then they start fight until Annie decided to break them out, and then Jack decided to walk until the Jester had to teleport Jack to the woods, and then they talk from there. So Jack asks what the purpose of this path, and then the Jester adds this is just for talking. However, that isn't her true intentions. You see, her actual intention is that she wanted to talk to Jack because she caught him talking to the others, and according to her, that isn't his role. So Jack just said that he wanted to help others, but for some reason, Pomni didn't like that and just tortured him. Then after that, both, Django and Crowner decided to talk, and then this leads us to the next episode. So the next episode, Anophobia, begins where Kinger have a weird dream, and to be honest, this episode is kind of a nothing burger. I mean, most of the time it's just Kane walking around and seeing his friends, dead and having a flashback, and that's pretty much it. The most important detail we know is that, this jester is kind of poking fun of, Crowner basically dead wife, which is Crowny, which is kind of funny, not gonna lie. So yeah, apology if I didn't fully analysis this entire episode. Personally, this is just purely just Kinger walking through a maze and just seeing his dead friend, and then having a flashback of how they're basically good. With that, I got nothing else to say, and then let's move on to the next episode. So skipping the 13th episode and moving all the way to the fucking 14th episode, we get a drop chick episode. That's it. There's nothing very important in this episode either. This is just Django just having a drug check and killing both Noble and Jack, which is, yet again, contradictory at best. So the second last episode is Testing More Kane, and personally, I kinda enjoyed this episode. I got nothing else to say, I just personally enjoyed this episode. It's short, pretty simple, and I kinda enjoy Kane just doing shit, because, we want to impress the dev, which is kinda sweet in my eyes. Got nothing to say, and then let's move on to the final episode. Alright, final episode. This is by far the longest episode in the entire series, nearly lasted half an hour. So I will try my best to summarize every single bit as best as possible. Apologize if I don't get every single detail right. It's quite really wrong. So for the first thing, we see Annie trying to scammer around the place so she could cook something pretty simple enough. Nothing really special, she's just trying to eat. And next thing, we see both Django and Noble arguing between one another. Django is arguing that everything that Noble's doing is their fault and other problems on their head. Basically saying that it's not my fault that you're suffering with some make-believe problem. And then Noble fucking killed her. So in the next scene, we see Jack being chased by the Jester, and surprise surprise, the Jester caught him and teleported to a dinner with Crowner. And in his dinner, Jester challenges both Jack and Crowner in a game. What's that game? Russian roulette? Yeah. So the Jester picked Jack to go first. However, the Jester told him to stop fighting because she could see right through him. And then the next scene starts as in Andy trying to look for more agreement, I assume. And then later see both Jax and Jester with the course of Crowner. So the conversation between Jester and Jack starts and is about Kinger and reveals something very special about him. See, no matter what Jack do, Crowner is always supposed to die no matter what. After that, Jester revealed that she won't do anything to him since, they're friends now. Anyways, after that conversation, Jester demands something out of Jax and to find Noble. However, before she wants to explain what she wants to do with Noble, she spotted Andy. So after she get captured, beating the absolute shit out of her, telling her how much she hates Andy, she decided to, basically punish, Andy by essentially finding her own self. So after a small tussle and losing a goddamn hand, Jesse decided to punish her in another way by burning her. And just adding salt to the wound, Jesse decided to taunt Annie by saying that no matter how much she hides, she is always there to find her and torture her. Anyways, back to Jack, and he discovered where Noble is and decided to help them out. Noble revealed that there's practically nothing outside of the world, which is kind of depressing. However, Jack broke the news where he killed Kinger, and Jester discovered Andy and practically tell him that Jester is practically torturing her. And it's actually take a look at the corpse of Andy. Andy decided to resurrect and be completely abstract. Or maybe not. And then that's the end of the episode. Where to end. So yeah, that is the Duffy leads to Circus. And to be honest, I'm kind of mixed on this.
Bagel delivery! What? I didn't order.
Well, yes, there are some stuff that I personally enjoy in this, such as the, making Palm the antagonist and, some of the character design. There are some stuff that I kind of don't like, such as some of the unnecessary shock value, some weird unanswered question, and some weird retcon that I don't want to get into. honestly, this whole thing just reminded me of that one FNAF you mentioned that I took a look at, which is not a good thing to remind me of. So, was Papa wrong calling this the worst analog horror series? Yes. There are far worse analog horror series out there, and calling this the worst is kind of a bit oversaturated. So, yeah, Papa was wrong about this one. Like always. Anyways, other than that, I got nothing else to say other than see ya, I guess. Well, it's just like that time. That was pretty interesting to talk about. And yeah, no, I should probably use this notebook yet again. But that kind of leaves you to leave. You're gonna leave until I talk about that one fish game, aren't you? Fish! Figures.